I just wanted to welcome everybody to this mayoral candidate debate hosted by Access Framingham. I'd also like to thank the library for their generous use of the space. And I'd like to thank the candidates for making time to come to this important community event. Access Framingham is Framingham's local community media center, and doing events like this are a key part of what our mission is. If you are interested in finding out a little bit more about us, we are having a community listening session on Tuesday evening here at the library at 7 o'clock. And a little bit in the future there, and November 7th, we have our Access Film Festival over at the Village Hall. So I'm gonna pass it over to Giuliano Espino, PhD from Framingham State University, who will introduce himself and a bit about the rules of the game here. All right, thank you.
All right, hello everybody. Whoa, kind of cool, hear my voice. All right, I'm glad everyone can hear me. As was mentioned, my name is Giuliano Espino. I'm a political science professor at Framingham State University, right down the street from here. But most importantly, I will be the moderator for this afternoon's Framingham Mayoral Debate between incumbent Mayor Charlie Sisitsky and his challenger, Geoffrey Epstein. Before I cover the rules of the debate, I do want to start with a quick public service announcement. Framingham is having citywide elections on Tuesday, November 4th. That means that not only is there a mayoral election, which we are covering today, but there's also races for city council going on, school committee races, and a proposed vote to change the city's governing charter. However, I want to stress something. The deadline to register to vote in Framingham is actually Saturday, October 25th. If you have not already registered to vote, please do so as soon as you possibly can. After all, civic engagement is perhaps the cornerstone of a functioning democratic society. With that out of the way, let's move on to the rules of the game. Each candidate is going to start with a 90-second opening statement. Candidates have visibility to a timer that will be right in front of them, and I will be enforcing these time rules. We have determined prior to the debate via coin toss who will present first and second to reduce any potential bias in candidate response ordering. Mayor Sisitsky will be starting us off, and then his challenger, Mr. Epstein, will go second. From there, candidates will alternate in being able to be the first to respond to a series of questions from 4 pressing policy issues in the city of Framingham right now. Candidates will have 90 seconds to respond to my questions. At my discretion, candidates will be given a 30-second rebuttal time. One thing I do want to note is that if one candidate names the other candidate, that named candidate will be given a 30-second rebuttal opportunity. That brings us to the question of what are these pressing issues facing Framingham? To determine that, Access Framingham sought input from Framingham's residents for the candidates. After our review of the input and questions we received, we have narrowed things down to 4 major policy areas. The questions will be covered in the following order. First, development. Second, education. Third, immigration. And fourth, transparency. I do want to note one thing. There will be no specific questions today relating to the issues of environment and sustainability. The reason for that is that there is actually a separate candidate climate forum being held on October 18th, a Saturday, from 6 to 8:30 p.m. at the First Parish Church. However, if the candidates do want to raise environmental and sustainability issues in their response to my questions, they are more than free to do so. We will conclude with 90-second finishing remarks in which our 2 candidates will try and seal the deal to you all, the Framingham voters, as to why they should be elected mayor of Framingham in November. On that note, we will start. Mayor Sisitsky, opening remarks, please.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Access Framingham, for organizing this candidates forum. Dr. Espino for moderating today. Leading the city of Framingham is a huge full-time responsibility, and I'm grateful for having the opportunity to be your mayor. The more than 75,000 members of our city create a tapestry of diverse backgrounds, cultures, and experiences, making the beauty of each of our neighborhoods unique and something we all should cherish and celebrate. My vision for the future is to make Framingham a place where people want to come to live, to work, and to play in a safe environment. I will continue to enhance the quality of life for all of our residents by supporting the many community events that we've developed over the past 4 years. In the next 4 years, I want to complete the projects that I've laid the groundwork for. These include trails, construction of new Southside Elementary School, upgrades to our parks and playgrounds, completion of the community center, and pursuing a public-private partnership for a swimming pool. I am mindful of climate change and will do everything to ensure we are environmentally responsible. I will make our libraries, schools, senior center, and other public buildings greener and more efficient and have clean energy across our city. The City of Framingham, the Sustainability Coordinator, Sean Lutz, and I have all been nominated for statewide Environmental Leadership Awards by the Northeast Renewable Energy Coalition. I have the integrity, the passion, the empathy, and the tireless dedication to lead this city.
Thank you,
lead
Mayor
because,
Sisitsky.
okay.
Mr. Epstein, your opening.
Hi, I'm Geoff Epstein. Thanks for being here. Thanks for Access Framingham for supporting this, and for the library for providing the space, and to Giuliano Espino for being here to moderate. I am a physicist, an engineer, a teacher, an advocate, a student of municipal government for 25 years. I've done 10 years of service in 2 different cities on school committees. So I bring a breadth of knowledge and experience here. I've lived in Cambridge, Brookline, Newton, and here. I've also lived in East Lansing and Pittsburgh and Sydney and Oxford and so on. So breadth is what I bring. I'm interested in ideas from everywhere. And I'm interested in a number of issues. They've already been mentioned. I am very interested in education and infrastructure and environment, and also residential development and senior services, some of which apparently will not be covered here. But I will try to bring them into my answers. So here's the thing. I bring a new approach, new ideas, and I'm an immigrant to Framingham. I've been here 11 years. I'm an immigrant to the United States. I've been here 50 years. So I know about immigration from personal experience. So I bring a fresh approach, new ideas, new direction, and we have a lot of trouble and problems here. I would not be running if the education system and the environment and infrastructure weren't at risk in the city. Even senior services were cut, and 2 neighborhoods have been under attack in this city. That's why I'm here, trying to improve.
Thank you, Mr. Epstein. All right, so now we are going to be moving on to our first block of questions. These are planned to run around 10 minutes with a little bit of wiggle room in case there's a lively debate. The first round of questions is going to be with development. And when we solicited input from Framingham's residents, by far, the most questions we got were in the realm of development. We had every possible view expressed, and full end of the spectrum and everywhere in between. I'm sure you know how that goes. So to start us off, Mr. Epstein, since you opened second, you'll be responding first to these development questions. And the first question is, how should Framingham balance economic growth and housing development while also preserving local neighborhood identities and supporting Framingham's local communities? You have 90 seconds.
Right. I think the most important thing here is to talk to neighborhoods. We've seen 2 assaults on neighborhoods in the last couple of years, one on Knobscott, who had an attempt to thrust high-density housing on them with no advance notice. In September last year, they found out about it. Although the mayor had, in the year before, checked with the state that that particular Edmonds Edgell parcel was eligible for zoning change. So there's that problem. I'm in this race because that community got inflamed, apart from other things like education. So one thing is consulting neighborhoods. The other thing is putting high-density housing for the MBTA solution where there's no transit made no sense at all. The other thing we tend to do is put high-density housing where we already have high-density housing. And so you have Pearl Street, and you have a 5-story building going up on Union Avenue next to a single-family house. We're putting high density where it doesn't belong. We need to have much better solutions for those kinds of things. So in general, we want to do development that also brings money into the city. It's not clear from any of the developments at this point that we've made money from it, because there is no impact statement. The city never does a figuring out of, did we make a profit on that or not? So I bring analysis and analytics and measurability to all of these things, which has not been done to this point.
All right, thank you, Mr. Epstein. Mayor Sisitsky,
Sure.
Same question.
Thank you. There's no question that the city needs development to keep going and maintain our level of services without making substantial cuts. And right now, the only thing that's being built anywhere in the region or in the state is apartments and housing. And I think it's a fallacy to think that they do not produce tax revenue. We just saw the Moderna apartments down on Route 135 sell for over $112 million. When you factor in the assessed value that'll bring in, we're going to get over $4,000 a year in taxes from each apartment unit. There's no question that they produce taxes that are badly needed. The whole theory behind the MBTA Communities Act was to spread around the number of units that each community was required to produce. And that was the theory that the planning board and the planning department thought about when they made their original proposals. Meetings were held with many neighborhoods, and input was taken. And eventually the city council did never change the zonings for any of those areas. And I had to step in at the last minute to get the state to agree to accept our existing zoning downtown to make us compliant with the MBTA Communities Act. Because of that, we maintained our ability to get grants from the state and use them wisely to keep going and make improvements throughout the city.
Thank you, Mayor Sisitsky. And since residents were overwhelming in their, noting that this is a pressing issue, I will be giving each candidate a 30-second rebuttal for this specific question. So if we can start off, Mr. Epstein.
Right, I think Knobscot was a really terrible situation where it was done at the last minute without consultation. Why do you inflame a neighborhood? You inflame them because you didn't consult them. You inflame them because you're trying to change a tranquil rural village, essentially, into high density. Could you imagine Edmonds, Edgell, if that area had 1,000 units put there? That was the original suggestion that came through the mayor's office to the planning board. And then it was knocked down to 500 in a public hearing. It eventually got crushed because 6 councillors out of 11 were going to vote against it.
Thank you, Mr. Epstein. Mayor Sisitsky.
The issue with Knobscot was a very complicated one. It was one of the areas of the city that was undertaken to study for spreading the housing around. Obviously, the neighborhood was not happy with it. And as a result, the city council never voted to rezone it. So there's no impact up there because there's no zoning proposals going on there now. And we're still compliant with the MBTA Communities Act. So everybody won on that.
All right. Thank you, Mayor Sisitsky. On to the next question. Mr. Epstein, you will have another chance to be the first to respond to this question. Keeping along that discussion on Knobscot, many residents of Framingham expressed explicit concerns to us over the issue of overdevelopment. Do either of you have fear that Framingham is on a path of overdevelopment to the detriment of these local communities? Mr. Epstein.
Yeah, I think that was a good example in Knobscot because that 30-acre parcel is actually part of the open space plan, and the city was designated to be open space. And it has a lot of ledge there. It's very hard to build in that area. Also, that area could do with a park and some recreational area. The senior Shillman House is across there, and you can go and visit with your grandkids in the park. The neighborhood never got an opinion asked. So that's important. You look at Stone's Reservoir now, where it was described as a rape of the environment by Nanette Magnani. And it's true. They came in and just chopped down a ton of trees before the city was even aware of what was going on. This is a 4-acre lot. It's single family zoned. They want to bring in the Dover Amendment and pretend that it's going to be somehow relating to students. The New England Child Center, NECC, which is possibly going to be a tenant, doesn't own the building. There's not going to be a student there. They're trying to bring it in under the Dover Amendment, which will fail. But I hear nothing from the city saying that's what we shouldn't be doing. Environmental damage there is amazing. Within 125 feet of the lake, you're not supposed to touch anything, yet tons of trees were chopped down there. Giant equipment was in there for 6 days taking down trees, and yet the city says nothing and places no fines on the developers. This is development run riot, and that neighborhood is the second neighborhood inflamed past Knobscot.
Thank you, Mr. Epstein. Mayor Sisitsky.
So, as I said before, the city needs development to continue on without having to cut services. And we're looking at a lot of different areas for development, and not just residential development. We've been talking to Shoppers World has proposed a $100 million improvement to the area up there. We're talking to other property owners who own vacant office buildings, helping them how to redevelop their buildings into more productive tenants. And we're looking all over the city to encourage development. I've met with the CEOs of our major corporations, TJX, Bose, Sanofi, just to talk to them and let them know that the city is there to work with them. It's all about developing relationships, and that's what I've done for the past 4 years, to develop relationships so we can talk to these people and offer them services and help to encourage them to continue to develop. And a perfect example is the recent acquisition by TJX of 2 additional buildings in Framingham, where they're going to relocate a big portion of their employees that are currently in Marlboro. So we're doing everything we can, and we're pretty successful in some of the things that we've been able to do so far. And we're working on other projects that we can't talk about yet, but there'll be a huge difference in the landscape once we complete some of these negotiations with non-residential developers.
Thank you, Mayor Sisitsky. Next question will be the last one from the development block. And so, Mr. Epstein, what are your plans to achieve neighborhood buy-in for your development agenda if elected mayor?
The first thing is to consult them, to talk to them and say, what would they like? For example, the Knobscott community, would you like to have open space up there? And the community down at Stearns Reservoir, do you really want all those trees chopped down? Do you want some residents there, or would you like a park? The first thing is talking to people. There's very little interaction with people here. I happen to answer the phone. I answer every email. I'm on Facebook all the time. I have meet and greets all over the city, and yet there is nothing at the mayor's end that counters that or gives you some alternative. You have to talk to people. And so I talk to teachers, and you find out what the situation is in the school system. So talking to residents is really important. And so I like to talk, and I'll talk people to death if they'll listen to me long enough. But I have endless energy for this. So one of the important things in general is to say, where do we want to go? And it is not true, to counter the mayor, that we make money necessarily out of these developments. The MBTA development was, Communities Act was supporting multi-unit dwellings for families. What do families produce? Children. So if you have a lot of children coming in, I love children, but you can overwhelm the school system like's happening in Lexington right now, and you actually lose money on development. You cannot develop your way into financial security in a city.
Thank you, Mr. Epstein. Mayor Sisitsky.
Well, that's very inconsistent with the need for development to generate additional revenue. For just a quick example, the new apartments on Water Street, 90% rented. You know how many kids, school-age kids are there? Two kids out of all those apartments that are there. And one thing that he's right about is you got to talk to people. And I'm very proud of the fact that I've had a traveling road show going around the city, meeting with every district in this city, getting input from all the residents in every district. And I don't just talk to people on the phone. I show up. I go to events. I'm at all the school events, all the school soccer events, baseball, basketball, all those events. I go to different events at the high school. I go down to the parks and other programs, and I talk to people in person. And it's a lot different to talking to people in person than talking to them on the phone anonymously. And I think that's very important. Everybody comes up to me. They want to talk to the mayor. They want to have their picture taken with the mayor. They want to tell the mayor what they think. And I listen. And I take that back to my office, and I review it with my staff. And we make decisions based on the things that I learn from talking with the people in person. I think that's very, very important.
All right. Thank you, Mayor Sisitsky. We are now moving on to our second block, education. And so since Mr. Epstein, you answered questions first in the first block, Mayor Sisitsky, you will be answering questions first in this second block. And we received almost as many questions about education as we did with development. I would like to start us off with a very practical question we received. And that question is, what levers of power does the mayor actually have to influence education outcomes in Framingham? And how will you, if elected mayor, leverage those tools of power to enact and implement your education policy agenda?
Okay. First of all, we need to get this very straight. The school department has a bottom line budget. Once their budget is approved by the city council, they can take that budget and do anything they want with it. If they want to completely change what they proposed in the original budget, they can do that. The mayor has absolutely no role in overseeing how the schools spend their money once it's appropriated. It's been said that the mayor has a role as a member of the school committee. That's only partially true. Under the charter, the mayor only has a vote at the school committee meetings on anything that's tie vote or on collective bargaining. I am involved in collective bargaining and I get to vote on the final contracts. But other than that, the mayor has no role in the day-to-day operations of the schools and setting policy or anything else. I attend the school committee meetings, but I don't really participate in the discussions dealing with their policy statements. So it's a fallacy to think that the mayor can control what happens with the schools. And I think it's also a serious problem when people go around knocking the schools and saying how bad everything is. A mayor has to be more positive. Mayor has to talk about how great things are in the city and encourage people to want to come and live here. You don't want to go around knocking things and being completely negative about everything that's going on in the city.
Thank you, Mayor Sisitsky. All right, Mr. Epstein.
Yeah, I don't like to knock the schools, but I also like the truth. And so what do I say when 200 experienced teachers and 8 principals have left the schools, quit in the last 2 years? What do I say when student scores have declined in every one of the last 4 years? What do I say when I've seen late buses for 3 years chronically late? Oh, the schools are doing just fine. The teachers are leaving, the students' grades are going down, and they can't get them to class on time. And so I see also that pre-K was never expanded. Why did this happen? Well, the mayor has budget control over the city and the schools. And I was chair of finance and operations in the school committee when I served there for 4 years. What happens? You have a meeting out at the public view at the start of the budget cycle in which the mayor tells you what the financial landscape is and what he thinks or she thinks you're going to get. And then it's up to you to fight back against that. Now, the mayor had complete budget control here. As the Student Opportunity Act brought money in, he took money away. $18 million was taken out of the schools by the mayor because he has budget control. So the mayor has a lot of control over what happens in the city. And if I'm elected mayor, I'll bring that $18 million, which is still sitting in the general fund, back into the schools to fix the pre-K problem and the classroom support and make sure teachers don't leave and students' grades are better.
Thank you, Mr. Epstein. Mayor Sisitsky,
Sure.
since he did reference you a couple times, you have a 30-second rebuttal.
Okay, just to point out that while I was mayor for the past 4 years, the school budget has increased over 6% each year. In some cases, more than the amount of money that was increased through the state aid from Chapter 70. As a matter of fact, this past year, I added over $10.5 million to last year's school budget.
Thank you very much. All right, on to the next question.
Do I get to answer the question too? That was a rebuttal.
Oh,
but,
my bad. Sorry, yes.
Thank you. I apologize for interrupting, but okay.
Fair enough.
As I said, the school, you know, there's more to the city and running a city than just a school budget. We have to worry about, we have to set our priorities. We have limited resources that have to be spread around to all the different departments like police, fire, public works, park and rec, and all the other departments that need money and need more help. And we have to be very careful and fiscally responsible how we spend our money. One thing that has never been admitted by my opponent is that there's 6 or 7 line item budgets that don't appear in the school budget, but appear on the city side of the budget. And in those 6 or 7 budgets, such as the property and liability insurance, group insurance, unemployment insurance, Medicaid, Medicare, retirement fund, all those budgets have a substantial amount of money allocated directly to the schools. And that totals over $40 million that doesn't show up in a school department line item budget. So when you see a budget for the school committee for this year was $183 million. you got to add $40 to $50 million extra to that budget, because that's how much money we put into the city side of the budgets to support the schools. And that is being ignored time and time again by others who are throwing numbers around.
Thank you, Mayor Sisitsky. Mr. Epstein?
A quick rebuttal on that. The school committee, which has a fine budget book, depicts precisely what the other money is. And there is $40 million that is outside the school budget. For example, health insurance. But in other cities and towns, health insurance is included in the city budget. But just because there's a lot of other money spent outside the school budget on the schools, like health insurance and water and all these other, it doesn't mean that isn't identical in every other city and town. It doesn't mean that the schools are getting something unusual. What matters with the schools is trajectory, and it's downwards right now.
Thank you, Mr. Epstein. All right, we will be doing one more full question before moving on to the next block. I'm really happy with the organic back and forth on the issue of education. And so one question we had specifically is that in Framingham, some schools perform far below the state average, while others do much better. This often reflects differences in income levels, language needs, and neighborhood demographics. As mayor, how can you address these inequities to ensure that every student, regardless of where they live or what language they speak, has equal access to high-quality education? Mayor Sisitsky.
Sure. I think, we have to realize that the demographics of this city, we have a lot of kids that are English language learners. English is their second language. And their parents aren't set up to support them when they come home and do their schoolwork and everything. And one of the ways to balance that out is to have school choice. And we have a tremendous amount of busing that costs the city a lot of money, but by doing the busing, we give kids the opportunity to go to different schools and interact with kids of different economic levels and demographics. And hopefully that would help the kids even out their learning and their ability to learn and do work. And the schools provide a tremendous amount of resources for after-school help and one-on-one with families and kids, and they try very hard to do it, but it's difficult and it's a big challenge. And we do the best we can with the funds that are available.
All right, thank you, Mayor Sisitsky. Mr. Epstein.
Yeah, the thing is with particularly low-income and immigrant children and special needs children, the thing to remember is that the state did a really fine job of supporting them by passing the Student Opportunity Act. And what that did is it boosted the money for those students. And in fiscal year 23 and 24, we got $11 million from the state to help those students specifically. That's the Chapter 70 money that comes in. It was an increase. The second year in 24, we got a $16 million increase. Did that all arrive at the schools? No, because out of the $11 million that arrived at the city, in the city coffers, only $6 million made it to the schools. Out of the $16 million in the second year, only $11 million made it to the school. The reason is that the city dropped its support. As that student opportunity money flowed in, the mayor dropped the support. And so he dropped it, as I have said, by a total of first 5 in 23 and then $10 million down from 90 to 80 million in 24. The net loss to the schools was $18 million chopped out of that support that came from the state for students. That would have expanded pre-K to all students. We have 300 kids coming into kindergarten not speaking English. We have classroom aides who are 20% underpaid in the market, and we have a shortage, and we had late buses. All could have been solved with that $18 million.
All right, we are now moving on to the third block, and so keeping with the rotation, Mr. Epstein, you will be the first to respond to these questions.
Did I get a chance to answer that question?
Oh, yeah, yes, the inequity question.
Okay.
Okay, yep. So, Framingham is one of the largest foreign-born communities in Massachusetts, especially Brazilian residents. Recent ICE raids have heightened fear and disrupted businesses. How should the mayor address concerns of immigrant residents facing recent federal enforcement actions? Mr. Epstein.
The mayor should resist, because we are experiencing, I've been here 50 years, and I studied America before I came here, and I saw all about the McCarthy era. There's nothing like what is happening now. We have a history of racism in this country. There was the Chinese Exclusion Act. There were the Italian and Irish immigrants who came in from New York up to Boston and who suffered a lot of discrimination. But we've gotten past it. We really had gotten past it until recently. And now we're having the latest wave punished, the Spanish-speaking and Portuguese-speaking folks, and people from Africa as well. So they're regarded as unimportant in America's future. They are vitally important. And even as an immigrant here, I suffered through an interview with a lawyer in the immigration department who complained to me and my wife for 20 minutes about the Haitians. He said they were, running from island to island, dropping their DNA. And so this is in the 70s. So there's a history here. And we thought it was getting better, but it isn't. So things I say is, if I get elected mayor, my first stop will be down in Boston with Michelle Wu and try and ally with her and the other mayors in the state to find a uniform opposition to these arbitrary ICE raids. And the other thing is I'd like to see the city council pass an ordinance that bans any law enforcement officer from wearing masks. One has to resist within the legal means you have that resists 110%.
Thank you, Mr. Epstein. All right, Mayor Sisitsky.
Thank you. I think it's a huge mistake to advocate resistance. The federal government has the authority to go after illegal immigrants. They've been doing that, but they've been totally out of bounds on the way they do it. But we have to be very careful about going ahead and showing a resistance and bragging about it, because it puts a target on our back. And you know how they like to get even in Washington. Anybody that goes too far astray with not supporting the law gets in trouble. And we can't afford to do that. We support our immigrant population in other ways. I've had several meetings with all the social service agencies to make sure that everybody is up with all the latest regulations and how to respond to ICE attacks. And we've had some very successful meetings. I've gone to different churches, especially the ones with a large Brazilian population, and we've talked to them, and we've indicated to them that we support them and we'll do whatever we can. But I have had also meetings with our police chief many times, and we cannot do any kind of resistance that's above and beyond the law. We have to respect the law and abide by it, and we don't want to put targets on our back.
Mr. Epstein, I saw your hand, but I will actually be asking the next question because I think it segues.
It's a rebuttal that's necessary.
Did he mention you?
Yes.
Oh, my apologies. My apologies.
Suggesting I'm saying be unlawful with resistance. That's never the case for the best approach. There's been a ton of resistance in this country which has been lawful. The African Americans here resisted the government discrimination lawfully. They had marches. They boycotted buses. So what I'm saying is be very careful. We should be lawful, but when a large number of people resist in a lawful manner, it has weight. And that is what we should think of doing. All
right, so getting off to the next question, and I think some of this was already foreshadowed in the first round of responses. This is something I know many of my students have asked me as well. Mr. Epstein, should Framingham be officially declaring itself a sanctuary city, joining cities like Boston? Yes or no, why or why not?
No, and I don't think it brings us any advantage. I mean, I have a minute and a half, okay, then I can talk. I think there's no advantage to doing that because it just makes you a target for the Trump administration. And so I think that the way to do it, as I have said, you get together with the other mayors and at the other towns as well, and you try and figure out what you do when ICE is in town. And I've seen situations, there's a video I once saw which had one person being arrested by ICE. There were 50 police officers and 20 police cars there. So there's this immense fear people have of the weight of the law coming down on you. And when one is talking about being lawful, the Constitution is currently being walked over every day down in Washington. There's nothing that's being done there that is in any way completely lawful. So when you encounter that kind of thing, you have to have this measured kind of response. So I'm all for lawful react. We should find out where ICE is. We should make sure they don't wear masks. We should alert people to where they are because there's fear in the city. A lot of the population in Harmony Grove is not there anymore because they left town. Okay, these are people who are legitimately in their eyes, trying to survive. And they're trying to leave countries where it's often really terrible conditions. So our aim is to help people. So my aim in all of this is to help people in a lawful manner.
Thank you, Mr. Epstein. Mayor Sisitsky.
I do not think we should become a sanctuary city. We have nothing to gain from it and a lot to lose. But what we did do several years ago is we passed a welcoming proclamation, which touches upon the city's respect for all people of all different demographics and backgrounds, and basically welcomes everybody to this city and supports them. But it doesn't go as far as accepting a sanctuary city statutes. We have nothing to gain from that. And just as a point of knowledge, ICE does not announce to anybody when they're coming into the city. They don't contact our local police department. Our police department do not know what they're going to do when they're coming in, and they don't get involved in any ICE activities. They stay away from it unless there's some kind of riot going on or something where they would be called in as they normally would be called in for any type of unlawful activity. But ICE does not announce when they're coming in, and they don't even seek the city's police department's help in any of their activities. And that's the way it should be.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Last question in this block. What concrete steps will you take to ensure that immigrants' families feel safe in accessing schools, health services, and other city resources? Mr. Epstein.
Well, I think we never allow ICE in the schools, ever. And so, it's over my dead body, I'll go to jail. I've been to jail once for a parking ticket, and it's not very pleasant even for that. So you kind of have to protect people as much as possible. Most of all, we have to tell them that we're on their side. And particularly children, whatever children there are, need to get an education. And we have children not coming to school right now because their parents are afraid to bring them to school. So we've got to solve that problem. It means good busing probably that works. But the whole idea is we're together in this. And so children deserve an education. The parents brought them here, and that's the minimum that we can do. The rest of it is, again, this takes study and care and coordination with your local police. And I agree with the mayor here that the local police should not be cooperating with ISIS. They're not ISIS, help. But they're here to try and help the situation where, because immigrants are here and they're worried about their status, they don't report crime. And so they're worried that the police are going to turn up and then they're going to get hauled off by ICE. So the main thing is to work with them, and I'm trying to build out relationships with the Brazilian community and the Hispanic community to make sure this happens. And I will be very visible on the South Side in this city. The South Side is often invisible in many decisions.
Thank you, Mr. Epstein. Mayor Sisitsky.
Thank you. I think we need to continue to doing what we're doing. I think we're doing the right thing by meeting with our social service agencies who provide services to our immigrant population. We support all these organizations. We support the schools in giving support to the students who might be whose families might be subject to ICE arrest or ICE investigations, and continue to talk to them. I've been visible in the south side of town and the north side of town for 30, 40, 50 years since I've been here. I'm not a newcomer to this. I have the background and institutional knowledge of all of the city leaders, the town leaders, everybody that's involved in the government. I've had that knowledge. I've known these people for years with the relationships I developed, and I think that we need to continue with those relationships and work with everybody to make sure that everybody knows what their rights are and they get the proper support from the community and the schools. So I think what we're doing is a proper thing, and we're going to continue to do that.
Thank you. All right, we have about 15 minutes or so left, so we will be moving into the last block of questions. That last block specifically deals with issues of transparency and city administrative policies. So going back to something I said at the beginning of the debate, there is also going to be a charter change question that would make changes to how Framingham's city government is run. Mayor Sisitsky, starting us off on this block, are you in favor of or opposed to these city charter changes? Why or why not?
We had a charter commission, a charter review committee that reviewed the whole charter a couple of years ago. They recommended maybe 50 or 60 changes to the charter, a lot of them very detailed changes, but some more significant. And I'm hoping that at some point in the near future, the city clerk will put out a brochure explaining what all the changes are, because I think it's going to be very confusing. It's going to be one question for all of these changes, a yes or a no, that people aren't going to be able to pick and choose what questions they want to support and which ones they don't want to. There's a couple of important ones in there that are going to change the way we do business in terms of timing for preparing our budget, our annual budget. We're going to require the schools to change their schedule for taking care of the budget, and change some other things about how committees are established and everything. On a whole, I would support the changes, but I think people need to be told what these changes are going to be and what the implications are. And it's getting closer and closer to the election, and I don't see anything coming out of the city clerk's office so far. So I would personally vote yes for the changes to the charter, but I think people are going to be very confused and won't know how to vote.
All right, Mr. Epstein.
Yeah, first, I think the city clerk's office is one of the best run departments in the city, so I have no worry that they're going to inform the voters quite well about the charter. I think the biggest thing in the charter change for me, given the topics that haven't been discussed here, is the Chief Climate and Environment Officer, which is pretty important. There are other things like, what happens when someone in the school committee leaves the city and how do you replace that and this and that and the other. Also, the power of the finance committee in the city council is somewhat reduced because immediately they got the budget submissions from the mayor. It was immediately referred to finance, cutting out the larger council from all of the financial decisions, in my view. And that will remain something important for me because I think the city council has 11 members. They should be all involved in the financial decisions in the city, not 5 of them in some subcommittee. When I was on the school committee, I always had financial things done by the whole committee. But the climate officer, we have had no solar installations put forth or started in the city in 4 years. We had a curbside composting program that could have started 18 months ago if it wasn't for the mayor's obstruction with an 18-month study committee. So environmental affairs are really important. Our carbon footprint has been increasing, and we need to reap the $2 to $3 million a year in utility savings that we could get from solar on every roof and in every parking lot.
Thank you, Mr. Epstein. Mayor Sisitsky, you will be given a 30-second rebuttal.
It took 45 minutes before all this nonsense started coming out of his mouth. It's just unbelievable, some of the statements. We've put solar panels on the school, on the library roof, we put solar canopies at Brophy School, at Fuller School, and he knows that you can't put solar panels on roofs that can't support them because they're over their lifespan. And that's where we're putting our money, at upgrading our roofs before we can put solar panels on those roofs.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Epstein, 30-second rebuttal.
No solar installations were done on your watch, Mr. Mayor. These were all done before. I was the one who suggested Brophy.
Of course you were.
Yes, and Fuller was done before you were here. So it's really misleads the public to say that you did anything on solar installations here, quite frankly. They're all done before. We've had 4 years, and we had the Inflation Reduction Act with huge incentives increased in the first year of your administration, and you only became aware of it 2 years later. So we've done nothing on solar in the city and lost $2 to $3 million a year in utility
Thank you,
savings.
Mr. Epstein. I think under the rules, Mayor Sisitsky, you also get a 30-second rebuttal now. Let's see how long this goes.
It's just incredible, all the statements that are being made. I've been mayor for 4 years. I put together 4 budgets that were fiscally responsible. Each time I put the budget together, I worked closely with the schools. They've agreed with the number we've got, come up with them. I don't know where he's been for the past 4 years. He's never been to a finance committee meeting, a city council meeting, a school committee meeting. He's never called with his suggestions. Where are all these ideas coming from all of a sudden?
All right, I will let Mr. Epstein get one last rebuttal, and then next and last question, I promise.
All right, the mayor never answers my emails. They have been sent.
Never got one. Prove it. You show me one
Let me
email
speak.
you sent me.
Let me speak.
Please let him speak. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So it's just, you're getting a false narrative here on these things. I'll say nothing more than that. I have spent my life dedicated to the truth in science, in writing, in everything I've done. And yeah, I might not be at the meeting, but I watched them all, because you can use video to watch a meeting that's happened in the past. I watched them all.
Thank you,
I
Mr.
spent
Epstein.
the last 2 years watching all these meetings.
Thank you, Mr. Epstein. All right, a bit of an awkward segue into a less contentious question, hopefully. The city has had trouble filling open positions on board and committees. What would you do to get more residents involved in these committees? Last question.
Oh, sure. We're trying very, very hard. One of the things that I'm proud of accomplishing through the past 4 years is to increase the diversity and the number of people that speak multiple languages to get them onto our boards and commissions. The problem in the past has been that these people were ignored. Nobody went after them and tried to recruit them. And I've been very successful in getting a number of minority people, multiple lingual people on our committees, women of color, and it's hard. It's hard to get people to get involved with local government, to volunteer their time, because their lifestyle has changed. People are both people are working families. Their kids are busy with taking up sports, and they're busy with other school activities, and it's hard to get people to volunteer. We try very hard. Our public information officer is always posting vacant positions on our committees. We're constantly bringing new names into the city council. They've been very receptive in appointing people as we bring the names in. It's just hard to get people to apply because of the nature of society these days.
Thank you, Mayor Sisitsky. Mr. Epstein.
I think we need to inject a more kind of enterprising approach to all of these committees. What are they doing? If I said to you, what is the Council on Aging doing? What is the Planning Board doing? Well, we know they're doing planning and this and that and the other. But there's dozens of committees where no one knows what they're doing. And do they report? What are their goals? Is the mayor involved in advertising what they're doing? Hey, it's really great. I just went to the Council on Aging, and in my weekly newsletter, I'm telling you exactly what they're after. There's a lack of communication here. And also, even when there are important boards like the Zoning Board of Appeals and the Planning Board, the replacement or filling of vacancies is left to the last minute. In fact, with both the ZBA and the Planning Board this summer, it was left to the last minute, so of course you can't get people at the last minute. And then it was done so laxly that the City Council never had time to even review them. After 30 days, if they're not reviewed in the City Council, they become permanent appointees without review. So it's just disorganized, in my view. And so, like I say, if anyone, who can name all the committees and commissions in this room? Who can tell me what they're doing? And so one of the things is to bring a sense of purpose to all these. And so when you have these things like the EDC, the Economic Development Corporation, which just started up towards the end of the mayor's tenure, you need to have some direction and objectives. That's the way you get people onto things.
Thank you, Mr. Epstein. And Mayor Sisitsky, you were tagged at the very end of that, so I will give you a 30-second rebuttal.
We're trying as hard as we can. We advertise. We support the different committees with staff people, and we try. And people, we even reach out, and I ask city councilors to recommend people from their districts that may be interested in serving on committees. Everywhere I go, when I meet somebody, I said, hey, you'd be great for a committee. Why don't you apply for a committee, this or that committee? And we try very hard to get them, and we advertise, and we do the best we can.
All right, thank you, Mayor. So we are now going to be moving on to the concluding statements. Each of you have 90 seconds to convince voters why you should be elected mayor of Framingham this upcoming November. Mr. Epstein, start us off, please.
Okay, thanks again. Thanks for having me. It's a pity we couldn't discuss infrastructure and environment at much more length. We're not having a forum on infrastructure So I'm going to say something about that. We have a $200 million problem in infrastructure which is being ignored. It's been ignored because it should have a much better financial solution. It's being solved by increasing water bills for everybody. Everybody has higher and higher water bills, and in 2 years, that's going to be even worse. There's another big rate hike coming because you can't finance a $200 million deferred maintenance problem with raising rates. You might as well use parking meter fees to fund a new school. So the way to do it is to do what Brookline did when it had a sudden infrastructure problem with its school. Its high school needed to be expanded by 500 students because it had a big inflow coming in. So they moved out the payoff date for their pension liability plan from 2030 to 2040. That's a liability which the state requires us to pay here at $20 million a year. If we moved that out, and it's a technical thing, so believe me, this is true. If we moved it out to 2040 like Brookline did, we'd free up about $10 million a year to solve the water sewer problem, and we could lower water rates and have this properly solved. But we need new ideas and new approaches. That comes from Brookline. We should really be putting energy, ideas, and a new approach, which is what I bring, and I ask for your vote on November the 4th.
Thank you, Mr. Epstein. Mayor Sisitsky.
Thank you. Our city, I don't have time to rebut that. I want to just make my closing statement. Our city deserves a mayor with experience, compassion, and knowledge, municipal finance, to lead us through these turbulent times. We need a mayor who's able to balance priorities between the needs of all of our residents, our vital business community, and the services we provide. My campaign is not about slogans, it's about solutions. This is a choice between honesty, promises, and proven record. I've laid the groundwork for making solid decisions and maintaining our financial stability. I'm building on what works and looking forward to expanding and revitalizing economic development. I've initiated a number of opportunities for new growth, which will bring hundreds of millions of dollars into the city. I look forward to bringing these projects to fruition in my next term. I revere all the partnerships that I have built between our businesses, schools, and residents, and the relationships that I've developed with our legislative delegation, the governor, lieutenant governor, our U.S. senators, and congresswomen. I truly have a seat at the table. I serve as your mayor with the unwavering belief that when we come together, our collective efforts are far greater with strength. I commit to you that I will always work to ensure that our city is a place of promise, of progress, and of pride. This is why I do what I do, because I believe in the power of community, the strength of unity, and the potential of our city. Together, we can create a brighter future for all of us, where families can thrive, businesses can grow, and every resident feels valued.
All right, I want to say thank you to both of the candidates. This is my first time ever moderating a debate for anything, so it's been a joy to try and get a hang of these things. All right, perfect. Well then, if if the candidates like me, then I do want to plug one last thing. Access Framingham will be hosting one additional forum that is separate from the climate forum. So again, there's going to be a candidate climate forum on October 18th from 6 to 8:30 p.m. at the parish church, and some of the environmental issues that came up today will definitely be fleshed out a lot more there. On top of that, Access Framingham will be hosting a candidate forum. It's a joint forum for city council and school committee candidates. And so that is going to take place Thursday, October 9th from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Edwards Church in Saxonville. So I hope everybody continues to engage with city politics, hopefully attend some of these other events. And again, do not forget, vote on Tuesday, November 4th, and register to vote by Saturday, October 25th. Thank you very much. Be all you can be, and keep hope alive.
Very good. Thanks.